Man, you know that song I heard the other day, and it just blew my mind.
Well, sing it for us, because we got to start the show with a song anyway.
I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I did my believe.
I have my dignity.
No matter what they take from me,
They'll never take my dignity. What is that?
Because the greatest
a Whitney Houston
love.
song,
It is a Whitney
isn't it?
Houston
Oh,
song.
Yeah.
it sounds like
It's
something
happening
that the
to
South Park guys would have
me.
made up for like a scene in the South Park movie.
Right, yeah.
Whitney Houston was a powerhouse back in
Yeah.
the day. Before the fucking crack really.
And
Before
honestly,
Bobby
Brown got
during
his
the
hooks
crack
into
too.
Yeah, she was a fucking powerhouse. I listened. There's this really great. I listened to this like 10-part Dolly Parton podcast thing, and it was awesome. And she was talking about, because you know that's her that if that
If
song
I Will
the
Always
song
Love
for
You
I'll always
from The
love you
Bodyguard.
is a Dolly Parton song.
Yeah.
And
From the best little whorehouse in Texas.
yeah, she wrote it about Porter Wagner, which I did not know.
There was something with I read something like earlier today. I was reading about like the meme history of the term like I've got the receipts.
Yeah.
And it was I had a little bit of like an article K-hole. I was reading this one article that was like a political article about like once if and when Biden wins, like the idea of like, you know, the country coming back together despite the fact that like people have the receipts of like the people they hate, you know, posting stuff that they hate. And so that referenced the Kanye Taylor Swift thing where Kim Kardashian posted the receipts of like, I guess Kanye had that song where he was like, I made that bitch famous. He's like, me and Taylor should have sex. And then Taylor Swift posted about how like he's an asshole for making that song. And he said he asked her for permission and she was like, you did not. And then Kim Kardashian actually recorded like a Snapchat conversation or posted on Snapchat or something.
Yeah, I remember
Taylor
all this.
Swift talking to Kanye and Kanye asking her and getting so she was like lying about it. So then that referenced something with Whitney Houston also having some sort of receipts, and I can't remember what it was.
For
but
crack sales.
Something. It was like the original, like, have the receipts.
Is it from Whitney?
Was something with Whitney, but I don't know what it was.
You're a terrible detective.
I know. Now I kind of... well, the worst...
You took us down a long road to nowhere.
I know. Well, the
We're
worst...
on the road.
Guys,
to
these are 10 points
nowhere.
that I researched that showed that I couldn't come up with conclusive evidence as to what it meant.
Well, the worst part is...
You have I'm looking at two monitors that produce 0 results.
Well, the worst part is that I found it and then just forgot what I found.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I
so
overheard
funny.
that conversation. Yeah, I forgot to send you Jericho's. We were talking about Taylor Swift on the last show. There was a bus driver.
Oh, yeah, it was drugs. It was something...
Yes!
Yeah.
Cynicism wins.
It was something about the album Just Whitney, and they said Houston raised a question about like them claiming she spent an exorbitant amount of drugs, and there was somehow a receipt for $730,000 from a drug dealer.
Oh, that's
I don't know what kind of
That's
drug
intense.
dealer has receipts.
Yeah, who's
I'm not
keeping
reading any
track?
further than that. Just to be clear, this is exactly how good of a detective I will go.
Yeah.
Everyone can look the rest up. Could be nothing. Could have just read 3 sentences out of the paragraph and misconstrued the whole thing.
I also liked it too when, speaking of red receipts, when Cardi B was talking about the amount of taxes that she paid, and she was like, well, 50% I'm gonna need to see some receipts from the government where this money went.
I wanted to see where this money was spent.
I've never there are very few people in pop culture that like have that level of air about them like she does that I enjoy, and I think I like her.
Well, what I like about Cardi B. Hi guys, welcome to the Bushwick Bears podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You know the deal. Here, this is Jericho. We got Boris,
So,
Derek over there in the corner.
I set up the camera potentially a little bit tilted.
It's
but I can't
gonna
tell
be
if the
fine.
camera. I think it'll be okay.
No, I like
They're listening anyway.
Cardi B fucking like literally did come from nothing and became a star like out of nowhere, you know. So she doesn't
Yeah.
Right.
give a fuck.
She's the one that like posted about like
ass pussy.
yeah, but she's the one that posted about like straight up like drugging dudes and taking cash from their wallets
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
Oh
like a-
yeah, but
she was like a stripper in the Bronx. I really, in my mind, in this fantasy, well, I really was at a strip club, and a Dominican girl did sit on my lap and like braided my beard for like half an hour. That part really did happen, but in my mind it was Cardi B.
Right. Yeah.
I see.
In the memory,
sure.
it's Cardi B because it was before she fixed her teeth, Cardi B.
Oh, is that? I guess.
She used to have
I'm saying it out loud, and before I even say out loud, "Oh, she had work done," I realize how stupid that sounds.
Right. Yeah. But she makes a good point. It's like I would like to see where all this money is spent.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I want to go through the government's checkbook to see what we're.
But you won't.
No.
I'm gonna do as much investigation into that as you did into the Whitney.
Exactly.
Man, it's crazy because today we are recording this on
November
Election
3rd.
Day.
Election Day. It'll be interesting to see what the world looks like after this evening.
Or the first day of the election trimester, depending on how you want to
right.
look at it.
Yeah, it takes 79 days for the fruits to come to bear.
Yeah. Are you guys worried about a contended election result?
I'm not as much worried as like expecting it. Like if it's close, I more expect. It seems like there's going to be a blowout for Biden, so that is, I think, the most likely thing mathematically to expect. But also, who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
I
think
we're
Biden
not good.
would have to blow Trump out of the water.
Oh
like
man,
a 4-1
I wish you
margin.
just stopped. I think Biden would have to blow Trump
He
in the
should
middle
blow
of
Trump.
Fifth Avenue.
If Biden loses, he should have to blow Trump. Because, like, all you had to do was beat the person that everybody says they hate.
Dude, it'd be good too because he could take the dentures out of his mouth.
Right. Come on.
A gummy, a good old gummer.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
old days.
The new American flag is just Trump and Biden 69ing. Is that
With their
That's the
weird
only
old
thing
guy
that
dicks.
brings the country together?
This,
If we can settle our differences, so can you.
yeah. I mean, I definitely, I don't worry about it. I do think it's going to be a foregone conclusion. I think even if he loses like 4-1, he's just going to tell his base that like, oh, it was stolen from you.
I think
so he's going to be like,
right. They didn't do this to me. For sure. Well, that's
Yeah.
why I think that if he's got some, because he clearly has certain intelligence about him, and I think if he does, the smarter thing to do, especially if it's a clear loss for him, would be to accept that loss and channel it into getting all those people that are riled up to take their country back to instead subscribe to his YouTube account or whatever.
Yeah.
Media,
That's what it's been about his brand the whole time.
right,
you know?
and the main thing that he's really successful at is like, getting this following, and that can be channeled into whatever. It doesn't have to be politics. It could obviously just be pure entertainment, which is where he was prior to this, really.
He's been a great lesson for all of us included, to monetize your followers and to use like engage interest into creating a brand,
Including hate.
to make money, including hate. Yeah,
Including
for
hate.
sure.
I mean, it's crazy without the amount of hate. I wonder. I mean, everybody who hates him gave him. He was on SNL. Obviously,
Yeah, right.
NBC. He had a show on NBC for a long time.
Yeah. He's also created the most global peace of any president. Maybe
Arguably.
ever. Yeah, I voted by mail, and you can ballot track, and so my vote counted, but my wife's didn't.
Oh, like you both sent him out?
Yeah, we both mailed him out, and she accused me of throwing her ballot away. And then she had to go vote this. She had to go vote this
Why
morning.
would you throw her ballot away?
I didn't. That's the whole thing. Is like because she thinks. Then she went and voted this morning in person, because even if you vote by ballot and then you vote in person, your vote in person supersedes the other one.
I like a marriage where the votes cancel each other out.
Right. Well, that's what she was like. Oh, I need to go vote to cancel your vote out, and I'm like, so you're voting for the opposite of the Libertarian Party?
You're voting for, who is it, Howie?
Yeah, Al Jorgensen. Who is it? I don't
Well,
know.
no, Libertarian is Joe Jorgensen.
Oh.
And
Al Jorgensen was a singer
Howie
in Ministry.
Howie something. I think there's like a Howie something that's like,
Mandel.
well, there's Brock Pierce, who I learned about. I got a voicemail from him the day after I went to vote early, and then I got another voicemail from him yesterday.
Wasn't he that swimmer who raped a girl behind a dumpster?
Brock Turner.
Oh, whoops!
I made a joke
Sorry, Brock Pierce.
lumping him together yesterday, but I found out from Josh Carter that he's the head of the Bitcoin Foundation, which is interesting, and was in the Mighty Ducks.
Oh, he was a person in the Mighty Ducks? Who was he in the Mighty Ducks?
No, he was a duck.
He was one of the ducks.
He was like a child actor, I guess, that was in the Mighty Ducks.
You know who else
movie.
was in the Mighty Ducks? Because I watched the Mighty Ducks relatively recently.
Yeah.
My friend, it was the best thing. You know, when you're with a group of friends and you're like, what kind of movie should we watch, right?
Yeah.
And it was one of those nights where it was like, we're going to watch a movie. And one of my friends goes, childhood sports movie. I was like, that's a whole genre that you never thought was a genre, but there are lots in that category. I was
100% the genre.
I was like, that is a great
Air Bud.
And so we watched the Mighty Ducks, and he's in it, but he's Jesse. So the guy who Jesse Smollett is in Mighty Ducks.
Whoa,
Jesse Smollett, the guy who created
the self-hate crimer.
The self-hate crimer.
Oh man,
he is in the Mighty Ducks. He's
gay Tupac.
He's the littlest one.
Oh, go figure.
Oh,
I don't think he has a line, or I think he maybe has one line.
Yeah,
but he's like the little brother of the one of the main kids that has a lot of lines. And I didn't notice it, but when I saw the credits, I was like, "Holy shit!"
Look at that. So he's been like an actor his whole life.
Yeah, his sister is hot. She's great in that show that is average at best.
She was in
Lovecraft Country.
Oh, I haven't seen.
She's like the main.
Oh,
she's one of the mains in Lovecraft.
I
Country.
saw her in Birds of Prey. She was good in that.
I haven't seen either of those.
Anyway, she's hotter than her dumb gay brother who faked a hate crime, and she's a good sister too.
With the check. That to me is like, crime 101.
Yeah, paying cash.
Go to the ATM.
He also
cash.
Kept the receipts.
Yeah,
it's all about the receipts.
Also, he's a bad criminal because. How hard is it to find two white guys that want to choke a black guy for money? Like, you could have really staged.
Could have just hit up the Bushwick Bear.
You couldn't have.
We're all trying to make it in the entertainment business,
right?
You would have done it for free, just in exchange for a role on.
Yeah. I gotta earn my hours towards SAG, and I would have done that for sure. Well, he had two of his friends, which is another bad idea.
I don't know if they were friends. They were they worked on set on that Empire that he's on.
I think they were both like Nigerians.
Yeah, like two Nigerian brothers, I think.
That whole story, I was just like, what?
Two Nigerian white people.
It was all very strange.
It was all
but
strange.
Back to sports movies. I, as a child especially, never played sports. I don't know if y'all could tell. But and I never watched sports, and I still don't really watch sports, although I'm not as much of a prick about it. Like I'll enjoy, if I'm hanging out with people, like I'll enjoy certain aspects of it. I just don't have like the fandom or whatever. But I always liked sports movies.
Yeah.
Like I never watched sports. Always liked what's the one? Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year was
classic.
Great.
Rookie of the Year, that's where the kid broke his arm.
Yeah, and then he just like pitches for
yeah. I remember
Angels in the Outfield.
Angels in the Outfield for sure. You know which one probably today wouldn't fly with Rodney Dangerfield?
Ladybugs.
Yeah, Ladybugs.
Yeah.
Even as a little kid, I was a huge Rodney Dangerfield fan, so I loved all that shit.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Remember he had that TV show where it was called like Just Rodney? And he was like a spirit who would appear and talk to a kid at school.
No.
No, I don't remember that at all.
It was on for like maybe 2 episodes. It was clearly like somebody who was like, we need to put Rodney Dangerfield in a fucking thing.
It's like Scared Straight, but for marriage.
Yeah, it was like this kid was
Don't
like,
get married, kid.
His spirit animal was Rodney Dangerfield for some reason.
Was it a cartoon?
No, it was straight up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You remember his rap album?
No.
He put out a rap album, which that's my like holy grail of vinyl that I want to own. Like, you know, you have the records on your wall.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones that I've never seen. I know what it looks like, but he put out a rap album in the 80s.
Wow.
And I think it's called Rodney Raps.
I mean, it's got to be super embarrassing.
It's terrible. Yeah, but I want that record so bad. I did one of those like Snicker treats, right? Years ago. Probably like 8
Snicker treats. What do you mean?
Like where you do the comedy. It's a comedy show.
Oh,
on
the
Halloween.
sticker treat.
Sticker treat, yeah.
Oh, yeah, dress up like somebody.
And I did Rodney Dangerfield. This is like fucking 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was so good because you guys know my comedy. It's definitely not like fast one-liners. And it's a 5-minute set. I think I did 30.
Sometimes there's no liners at all.
In mine, oh yeah, especially recently, Jesus. But no, I did Rodney Dangerfield, and it's so different. And I wore the red tie and the suit, the whole deal.
Nice.
And it was really fun. And it was awesome. But I did, something like 30 jokes in 5 minutes, which is so different than my normal thing. But then there was like an open mic that night, and a bunch of the comics wanted to go, and I went. And I didn't tape my set, but I wish it because my friends were like, "Dude, I don't know. That was so crazy because you were still doing Rodney's cadence, but with my jokes about eating ass and cocaine and shit, but doing them fast like that. Like,
yeah.
Maybe
you ever do so much cane you can't die? I get no respect. I'm
Yeah.
I'm still wearing the outfit too.
No cocaine. No cocaine.
I guess Rodney Dangerfield was a huge pothead. Like according to Bob Saget.
Like, really?
Yeah, like smoked joints constantly.
That's why his
Rodney's
career
one of the
didn't
best.
start until he was in his
Well,
40s.
no, you know what? I think the thing that it was is that him and his wife were both like cabaret performers, right? And then she got pregnant, and he was like, "Well, I got to go make some money," so he quit comedy.
Did he like sell aluminum siding or something?
He started selling siding, but the thing was he never stopped writing. I guess he was just writing the whole time, and he loved comedy and still wanted to get back into it. But he was like 45 years old,
Right.
when he went back to the clubs.
Yeah. The Rodney Dangerfield story is always a bad one to hold up hope for anybody who hasn't made it by the time they're like our age. We're like, well, Rodney, like my mom's like, Rodney Dangerfield didn't make it till he was 45. I was like, that's one.
It's one out of a million.
Out of the
That who
thousands.
he already had like a connection with the clubs,
Right.
And he was
Right.
writing that whole.
That is
time.
like our version of like conservatives telling black people they're not impressed because like there's some black millionaires.
Oh, yeah.
What about
Well,
Ben Carson?
What about Kanye?
Right, yeah. Yeah. What about LeBron James? He's got millions of dollars. You can do that too. Well, it's not. It's not that like people should quit, but most people should quit.
But most people should quit.
Just not us, but like
Yeah, just not us,
but
just not
everybody
clearly
else.
Us with talent. Oh, it's like when people start bring up like, well, Ron White didn't make it big until he did Blue Collar.
He was already.
But he was already in the clubs and stuff.
He was.
like
He was doing 38 funny bones a year.
Right. That's the other thing is like, can't utter his name, but Louis, who like became like a global
up.
superstar.
Yeah.
But before then, he was already doing very well.
He already had
Writing-
2 TV shows.
Yeah,
Right.
Writing for he was writing for Conan, The Simpsons,
And he
Dana
had-
Carvey show.
Dana Carvey's, all that
Yeah.
shit.
And he had great bits on those too, if I remember, with Rob Smigel and stuff.
Right, yeah.
when he
yeah.
wrote Pootie Tang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or wrote and
Co-wrote it.
directed
I
maybe
don't know
as
if he
well.
directed, I don't remember. But yeah, no, those stories are always so funny because I like the Ron White one though because Ron White was like, I quit. This is no way to live. I'm gonna move to Mexico with my hot wife and just live in. I'm gonna make pottery. That's what he started doing. And then it was Foxworthy was like, hey, we're doing this thing, this tour. We want you to come on it.
Yeah.
And he said no. And then he was like, fuck it. All right, I'll come on the tour.
And then
that
he blew the
up.
fuck up.
Right,
They all
yeah.
became millionaires from that tour.
Super rich, yeah.
But he had quit. He was like, I'm making $40,000 a year. I'm working way too much. I'm just gonna live in
I'm on
Mexico
the road
with my
constantly
fucking
or
wife.
whatever. Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing with like, we're just in a different market now. We're more direct to consumer. We don't have to really go through like those gates.
That's true.
So
It's
much
such
anymore.
a weird.
If
how
we
do you-
could not be lazy and do that ourselves.
I know. Well, it's a weird.
Right.
It's kind of like
Forget our shit
comedy,
together.
Honestly, is like closed right now. Like I had this thought today when we were talking about we had like a group chat and we were talking about some comedy drama, and I woke up this morning and I was like, I feel like we're in a town where the only industry is the paper mill, and the paper mill is fucking shut down, but these guys are still bitching about fucking working at the paper mill. I was like, the paper mill's fucking closed, guys.
Right.
That's how I felt this morning.
Well, no, it's more that the paper mill is allowing some people to go to work and then letting some people pay for that work and then other people think that the paper mill should be shut down, and they're trying to shut it down.
Wait, are we still talking about a paper mill?
Yeah, well,
No, but that's just how I felt. Like,
oh,
well,
in general, yeah. I guess specific to the idea that we were talking about in our text thread.
no, I would just comedy's so weird right now. But like, has this been the case for you? And I know for Derek, you were kind of complaining about this a little bit before the pandemic, but like just getting old and doing comedy still, it's just like in front of these young, like right now, because the only people that are still doing comedy are like either the diehards that'll do it fucking literally till the wheels fucking fall off and the ship is sunk.
That's me.
That's like even I think all of us are still in it. If you're doing shows, or young people that still think it's gonna happen, right?
Right.
And so like doing these shows right now, and mind you, I've only done a couple of the shows, but I was like there, and I was like, I never felt a bigger disconnect between me and the other comics than I do right now. Like these super young people, like that have never like partied, have never like had sex with strangers, have never like really lived.
I think you're selling these kids short.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're just saying I'm not funny anymore, is what you're saying?
No, I'm saying I think it's a
it's
little in your head. I think there's a little bit of like I don't know, just separating yourself from everybody. Where like I don't know, a bunch of people quit, but I still think there's a whole range of the same crazies that were in comedy before, of all those different types that are still in it. Whether it's like the ones that are still working, you know, some people are still writing for late night and working and doing spots at night.
Some people are still doing clubs.
Some people are still doing. I know people are doing clubs, and then other people have their Patreon set up where they're making a little bit of money from that,
right?
Which would be helpful in today's climate. I don't know who's still paying $5 a month to listen to mostly free podcasts, but
people do. No, honestly, I think if I wasn't doing comedy, I'm trying to translate it to how I look at other art. But like, I now, like way before I pay for some like Amazon Prime shit or whatever, I'll pay directly to somebody who's making something that I like. You know, I have one podcast that I pay money for, which is Hidden Forces, which is like a political economics podcast where I know this dude that hosts it like puts in a shit ton of work and has like top tier guests and stuff like that. And then like, I don't know, I was considering subscribing to Matt Taibbi's, you know, mailing list, like shit like that, where like I'll pay you directly. I appreciate the work that you make, and I'd rather do that than like a Disney Plus subscription or something. Or even I pay for Spotify, and I have friends whose music's on Spotify, and I know they get barely shit, but it's just way too convenient.
Sure.
But if I can have a few, like I obviously can't afford to do it with a ton, but I think in my situation, think to somebody else who like really makes really good money, appreciates certain comedy, and rather than like, I don't know, pay for like Disney Plus or whatever it is, would rather subscribe to like 3 or 4 podcasts that they like and something else, you know? It makes sense.
I mean, I guess because I don't pay for any of those streaming services, it doesn't...
it doesn't translate.
Well, not so much that. I mean, because they know that so many people steal them from other people. And, like, I have one person who provides me with 4 different streaming services, basically for free, because they already have them. And they're like, well, I would have these regardless. Do you want a profile?
Right.
And I agree with you. In principle, I would like to give money. Well, that's the thing, though, too, is, like, I like live performance. So I like giving money to live performance and stuff like that. And also,
that's where it's at too, for sure. Because like you don't buy CDs anymore, so that's how you, at least before COVID.
That's what I did at the beginning of COVID. Well, I'm like, the reality of that, like that, I'm like my money's dwindling. But at the beginning of COVID, when I had a savings and I was getting unemployment, so I would, instead of like back in the old days, I would get all fucking hammered and like text some girl to try and sleep with me. You know, nowadays at the beginning of COVID, I would get all hammered and like send way too much money to like my friends' GoFundMes. Or,
right.
Like I did that one where I woke up and I like sent way too much money to our friend that has to Kofi's garden.
Oh yeah,
I sent money to that too, but
which is cool.
I would consider a reasonable amount. I didn't go crazy or nothing.
I went crazy considering I don't have a job.
Oh yeah.
I didn't.
Was it before or after George Floyd?
It was after George Floyd.
Okay, so there was a little bit of like a white guilt there too, maybe.
I'm all about my white privilege. I don't have much white guilt, man. My life's been a kick in the dicks the whole time. I was like, it's hard to feel guilty when someone's literally kicking your nuts.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I feel bad for you, but this hurts so bad.
Well, yeah, I think...
No, I just like what he did. But I've done it to some other friends, too, that had... I bought like way too many band T-shirts.
Yeah, I like the GoFundMes, honestly,
and,
because I get to read what it is behind it, and I will read it and I will make the choice where I'm like, this is, and I've donated to people that I don't really know, where somebody else shared it if it really like registered with me, and I've done it where it's somebody I know and I read it and I'm like, no, you're a fucking lazy asshole who just like has a coke problem and doesn't want to pay the rent. Like,
I saw a dude put a GoFundMe to get a PlayStation 5. And I was like,
seriously?
You need to try harder, bro.
Yeah.
The funny thing is he's like he's a rapper.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, just put up some of your makeup, do a freestyle. And put
I saw one on Twitter yesterday, and it was successful. And it was a girl who said that both her like absentee ballots got lost or something, so she was raising money to buy a plane ticket back to her home state so she can go vote in person, and people contributed and bought her a flight back.
You can just lie about that stuff though too. You can be like, oh, something tragic fucking happened, and
I think that's risky. Like, you can get pretty dragged if it comes out that you lied about it.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Especially if you're like a really online person.
We got a tip for this podcast.
What kind of tip?
Yeah, I got a shout out to Will, buddy Will.
Thanks, Will.
Abels?
No, just a civilian.
Oh, okay.
But he was
like, thank you, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Civilian Will, and no, thank you, Will Abels. You did nothing.
He was just like, I don't know how this works, but I really like what you guys are doing. Can I like send you a tip? And so I got to give you guys some money.
Oh, you meant a literal tip.
Like a literal tip.
Oh, cool.
No, like a tip, you know,
quit sucking.
Just because you're too drunk to get it up doesn't mean you don't have to pay the prostitute.
Well, you know, honestly, I mean, that we've been talking about it, and it's a good thing to talk during the podcast, because if somebody's listening and they enjoy this, I don't think we want a thing where it's somebody has a one-off tip or whatever. We do probably want to set up a Patreon or something, especially because we're doing sketches and other stuff. I think the big one, and what would be a non-monetary tip, but a wisdom tip, if somebody could offer, is like, the podcast is obviously for anybody. Anyone can listen to it on Apple Podcasts. We don't have like a gate to hear it, but if people were Patreon subscribers, we would need to have something that's exclusively for those. Is that how it works? Is it something exclusive?
Yeah, you gotta make exclusive Patreon.
Well, I feel like we could do tasteful nudes.
Yeah.
Some tasteful
honestly nudes. I feel like you could at least sell some tasteful nudes.
Yeah, tasteful
nudes. You've got a lot going on.
I think you could do that for sure.
Some tasteful nudes, maybe an exclusive sketch, or do an exclusive like themed episode every month or something.
I can maybe do, if somebody donates a lot, I can do a guitar lamp.
Ooh.
No, but there is something there where, like, on the one hand, the podcast, I'd like people to be able to listen if they can't afford to contribute to the Patreon, so I wouldn't want a paywall behind it. I wonder if also we could just do a thing where it's like, if you enjoy it, contribute to the Patreon, and you're helping us keep doing this, not just for yourself, but for everybody else who can't afford to contribute to the Patreon.
If you're poor, just fucking listen to the free episodes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. is I'd like to.
You can't get behind the paywall.
Well, it's sort of inspiring from like a Sam Harris podcast format.
No, I get it.
Where he charges for it, but he has a policy which is nice, where he's basically just like, if you can't afford it, shoot an email. We don't even like question it. We will just give you like. You know what I mean? Like, they just take your word for it, and here's a free subscription.
We'll figure something out.
The Patreon includes exclusive audio of us all saying racial slurs.
we give you blackmail is what you get for paying.
There was a guy at the beginning of COVID.
But they're all slurs for our own races.
Yeah, right. We just got to think of
fucking crackers. There was a guy at the beginning. I used to work with him in the beginning of COVID. He lost his job. He works in the hospitality industry. And then his 4-year-old son was taken from him.
Jesus Christ.
His 4-year-old son died. And then I was like, and then
he died?
Yeah, he died. And then so somebody posted for a GoFundMe for him, and it was like, hey, just help him out to cover his bills and stuff, and he's funeral expenses and everything like that. And and so I gave favorable amount of money because
Yeah.
I was like, this is horrible. I feel bad. And I still feel bad for the guy. But so we're following on social media and everything like that. And then maybe like a week or two.
He buys a PlayStation.
A week or two after, he was posting, like, going out to, like, nice restaurants and stuff like that. Like,
but I don't think that's bad, you know?
No. Here's the thing. I know. Let me finish, though.
It was with a new wife and son.
No.
Immediately.
He and I was getting kind of mad about it because I was like, I mean, it was, like, expensive-ass food and everything. And I'm like, okay. I try to help pay for like your bills and your funeral services and whatnot.
Not a luxury lifestyle, but if your kid died,
not a luxury lifestyle. But that's how. But it was going on for a while. But then I was like, but I had to rationalize that and be like, well, maybe other people are taking him out because of whatever it is.
Right. Also,
and then
very
I was
possible.
like, well, how did this kid die? You know what I mean? So
did he kill his own?
I googled him.
Oh no!
The kid's mom shot him in the head and then shot herself in the head.
Oh
before.
God!
And I was like, all right, maybe I didn't give enough money.
Enjoy a night out for sushi.
Enjoy that steak on me.
Enjoy that fucking sushi.
Yeah,
oh,
I mean, because you can't really
brutal.
tell somebody how to process something like that. And
No.
and granted, it probably was like
the worst thing imaginable that could happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. I mean, literally the worst thing imaginable. Yeah, but I do like, I shit on the GoFundMe's because there is such frivolous use of it, but I like it as a means of directly helping and knowing the context. Whereas, like, my wife more frequently will donate to like charities, and I'm not against that, but generally speaking, like, they have lists of like the efficacy of these charities where like it's insane how many of them, like 90%, 95% of what you donate goes towards like the administrative costs of the charities.
Yeah.
And like literally single digit percentages of what people donate goes towards like helping the thing. And it's good though, because there's like public lists of like the actual efficiency, and there are ones that are good to give to.
That's why they always talk about like I dated a girl who worked at Planned Parenthood, and she said only 3% of money goes towards abortion, and that's because the other.
But I want 100% of it.
The other 97% goes towards convincing people abortions are good. So that's where that. No, but you have to pay like the CEO of like, she explains to me, it's like the CEO of Planned Parenthood, if they just take some pittance instead of taking like what their CEO,
they're not going to attract good talent.
They're not going to work at
that's
it that hard. You're not going to get somebody who's going to,
It's funny to hear that.
I agree with you though. I'd rather give the money directly to people.
Well, especially like the GoFundMe thing, especially, like my friend had a fucking stroke last year, and that really helped him out a lot, because he. Not only could he not work, he had a goddamn stroke.
Right.
And so that stuff, I mean, it is a more like direct-to-consumer type of vibe.
Yeah, you need both. I'm not saying it's a replacement because, like, not everyone has even just, like, knows somebody or has themselves the ability to set up a GoFundMe, or, like, the people that have malaria in, like, some country in Africa aren't going to set up GoFundMes. For that, you do have, like, charitable organizations and Bill Gates vaccinating all of them and all that. But that's like a big one. It's literally like, I think the number one most effective one is just mosquito nets in countries in Africa, and it's like the amount of lives that each dollar saves is like incomparable to everything else.
Well,
if we're just talking sheerly in amount of lives,
I guess they started using those mosquito nets to catch the fish in like the local rivers, and then the material that the mosquito nets are made out of was poisoning the fish and then poisoning the people.
Is that true?
Yeah, I
Jesus
could be way
Christ.
wrong.
You can't do anything nice.
Yeah, I know.
No,
just
I know.
ruins
Charity's
everything.
Bullshit. Just let people die.
Well,
I'm just kidding. No, these are all jokes on the podcast.
That's how you know he's serious, when he has to do the just kidding.
This is just explaining the joke.
I have to. I mean, like, I feel like I have to apologize at the beginning of every comedy set and podcast that I do anymore. That these are just jokes. They're not hate speech.
Well, anyway, to cap off I like how we ebbed and flowed between giving to charity and giving to our podcast.
Yeah, people are gonna be like,
right?
we're
Yeah,
gonna
this
set
is
up a go
charity.
fuck me for you. You guys go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, pay us money to stop. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you give us enough money, we'll stop this motherfucker.
Well, I've always had a guilt about trying to monetize art or like my own personal value. I did the seller podcast with Hatem and Noam the other day, and there was a guy on there who was a veteran. He was he's a veteran. He's like a congressman, or he was going to be mayor of Kansas City.
Last one I did was with a veteran. They're on a roll.
Yeah, they're on a roll. And this guy was talking about how we had a real breakthrough, this guy and I, on the pod. I need to write him, because he was like, yeah, in boot camp you're taught whatever you do is insignificant compared to what everybody else is doing. You know what I mean?
Like compared to like the broader picture, or just literally compared to your peers?
Both.
Huh.
Like as in like because you're usually, when you go to boot camp, you're a young guy. If you're like me, I had nothing. I sold everything that I owned. I went to boot camp. I had the bag on my back, and it was like, you have nothing. You're capable of nothing. It's not like you're a businessman. It's not like you have capital or equity. And then furthermore, you're not even one of these people who are out here in the fucking field doing shit or whatever. What you're doing is insignificant compared to what everybody else does. And then so I always think about I think about that in terms of comedy. It's like for a long time I felt guilty about asking for money, and then about demanding money, or like trying to create value. And then I see these people who are in comedy, who are making money from it, and I hear their actual comedy. I'm like, I should have been asking for money a long time ago.
I mean, there is something to be said about like there's a happy medium, you know, and there's something to your character that you've been hesitant to ask for money, and then there's something to the other side's character where maybe they're not providing anything and are very ready to publicly ask for money. I mean, these are probably people who have been publicly asking for money before they ever did comedy. You know, just because.
Sure. Yeah. I wanted to get good at comedy before I started asking people to pay for it.
It is weird, and like, as someone who's been in entertainment for literally my entire life at this point,
right?
It is weird sometimes to be like to ask for money.
Yeah,
because it feels like it cheapens it in a weird way, or like, I don't know if it's the way we were brought up or the way society works, but like, it is hard to be like, oh yeah, it's like $5 to get in and I have to charge you. I'm sorry, but I've literally spent a lifetime
at shows and going to stuff. Well, I was gonna say from the flip side too, like, I mean, I've done shows where at the end, like, if you have a really great set and people really have a good time afterwards, like, they thank you, and it feels good to be thanked, but also like you're almost like people feel good trying to give you something in return if you provided them a good time. And like sometimes just asking them for money, or just like not even asking, but like passively providing a way for them to repay you for whatever enjoyment you brought them, like, it makes them feel good if they have the disposable income and you're not putting somebody in a position where whatever. Dude, I was once with Corinne after a show and she turned it down, but this girl literally tried to like give her money. Like, it was a comedy festival where I opened for her.
Corinne money.
Like a comedy festival.
Corinne's got so much money.
Well, it doesn't matter. It was just some girl who was a fan of hers who like came up and was I talked to her for a little while. She complimented me on my set, and then she talked to Corinne for a little while, and literally was just like, "Can I just give you money?" Like, literally, "Can I just give you money?" Yeah. And Corinne was super like classy about it and was just like, "No, hold on to that. You already paid for your tickets to this show." Literally, like, no, like that's how like merch and stuff. Like sometimes it doesn't matter whether you have a fucking sticker or a T-shirt, but somebody might not even like the T-shirt and not want to wear it again. They literally just want to like support and have something to show that they went out and saw this comic they like.
No, I agree with that.
That's the other thing we want is merch for the Patreon. Maybe just honestly, just some stickers. If somebody can afford $1 a month, send them a fucking sticker. You know what I mean? Like, people enjoy that. Or like, yeah, maybe this is a private conversation to be had, not on here. But
we're gonna work it out. We're gonna make some cool shit for you guys.
But I don't mind workshopping it because I'm open to suggestions from other people too.
Yeah, if you guys want to send me suggestions via Venmo, I'm at Hump Derek. Yeah, because I did a show this weekend that I got paid for, and nobody should have paid for that show because it was outside in the cold, in the rain, on a rooftop where the power was out. And like everybody bombed.
I can match. Oh, well, it's the one. Honestly, all the outdoor shows I've done so far have been pretty good. None of them have been. There have been individual bombs, but overall, there have been shows where if you were an audience member at that show, you had a good time.
Yeah.
And including the one that I did on Friday, where it was in a comic's backyard. Again, fun. Most of the comics had good sets. His neighbor in Queens on the other side of the fence with the backyards facing each other she called a fire complaint because there was a fire pit, and apparently those are not allowed in backyards, and a noise complaint, which we didn't even know. So first the fire department, the firemen come from the other side during someone's set. He handled it well. And
who handled it?
Paul Julius.
Yeah, Paul.
And they came from the other side, and then they came back around to our side and told us that she'd also called in a noise complaint, but the fire guy was super cool about it, and he was like, I don't handle noise complaints, so I'm not going to talk to you guys about that. You might want to turn it down so somebody doesn't come. And nobody came, and it was literally Paul and then and then me, and then I closed it out, and it was great. It was super fun.
Nice.
And despite it being, pretty haphazard in someone's backyard, there were drinks. People are. It's not as saturated anymore. So even though, like you said, maybe the shows aren't great, people are really comics and audience.
It wasn't great because of the setup of it. All the comics were really good. There were a couple of famous comics on the show, so it wasn't as if it was the content was bad. But
dude, sometimes everybody bombs, and if there's 2 famous people on it, also people go home being like, well, the show was bad, but I got to see so-and-so.
I got to see somebody from The Daily Show.
Yeah, he sucked, but now I can tell my friends I saw somebody from The Daily Show.
You know what's so funny? I've been thinking about this. It's because I saw there's that thing that happened with Big J where the guy pulled him off stage and tried to fight him. And Jared Waters posted a thing where a woman was screaming at him, threw a chair at him.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
oh, I saw a little clip of that.
The first place I started doing comedy was on a patio on 4th Avenue in Tucson, Arizona, which is a super busy street. So I'm used to violence and craziness at shows. So this shit, I'm I'm almost in my element. So many times at that show, you'd have people in the street talking shit. Or I've had multiple people try to rush me on stage and try to fight me.
The world's come around
it's
to
so
Jericho's
weird.
comedic stylings.
This little lesbian woman that looked like it was a couple. The one woman kind of looked like Xena Warrior Princess. And then the other one,
she was fit.
She was jacked.
Big, yeah, she's kind of
Lucy
jacked.
Lawless.
But kind of like a hot fit.
Yeah, a kind of hot fit. And then the other one looked like fucking Marcy Darcy from Married with Children, classic, stereotypical lesbian. And they were hammered, and they started talking shit. So we started talking shit.
Sounds like
back.
a power couple.
They were kind of a power couple, and I made the joke. I was like, oh great. Now Xena Warrior Princess and Marcy Darcy from Married with Children are heckling me, and the lady got so offended. The little one, the little Marcy Darcy looking, got so offended that she stood up and started screaming at me. And
she probably gets Marcy Darcy a lot,
right?
Yeah.
And she started screaming at me, and I'm like, no. And then this club had a bouncer because shit got wild all the time. And the bouncer came up and he looked at me and I go, no, chill. Wait, let me handle this. Let me work on this for a little while. And I am just roasting this woman and she's making her more mad. And she takes a couple steps forward and I go, if you cross that line, I'm going to knock your fucking face off. I don't care.
I like that you go to the Sean Connery school of physically dealing with women.
I was like,
crowd management.
These are modern times, and I am a modern man, and I will send you to the fucking moon if you get any closer to me. And she started screaming at me, and I just was making fun of her, and everyone was laughing like I got the crowd on my side.
Yeah,
which is the key in those situations,
of course.
And she was being a lunatic, and she kept doing and. She was like, and when she got close to the line, I just was like, just get her out. Just get the security. And he came and grabbed her, and she's screaming and fighting him.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, that's what he gets paid for. The craziest one, and I don't know, did you ever hear this story, Derek, about when Graham was on stage there? Graham, who we started the Bushwick Bears with, who I moved here with, he
Dude, wait, before I forget it really quick, for our Patreon subscribers, a Bushwick bong. We can do a collaboration and do a Bushwick Bears bong or the Bushwick bong.
That is a really good idea. Put that at a decal on.
Yeah, let's remember that.
Ooh, that's a great idea.
Oh yeah, we have a sign.
See the sign? Looking good.
Look at the sign.
Yeah, good thing the smallest bear's in front of it. So
what's your buddy's name who designed that?
Oh, Landon Day.
Big shout out to Landon Day.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Landon
buddy, for
Day
the
designed
sign.
that for us. Yeah.
No, but so Graham was on stage, and Graham is a monster of a human being, right? Graham 6'5", 300 pounds.
Oh, he's like 340.
Yeah, like he's a big motherfucker. And he's on stage. And
honestly, I just assume you guys are all 6'5", 300 pounds. Once I'm just looking up, I don't know. They're all big to me.
Yeah, I'm 6'3", 300 pounds. So I just want to stress how big Graham is.
Well, he's on stage, and it's a patio, and 4th Avenue is like a busy street in Tucson, Arizona. It's just bars and restaurants and stuff. And because in Tucson it never gets cold, but every year the biggest gem and mineral show in the world is there in February, and so it brings in a lot of like street kids, like crusty train kids. You know what I mean by that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like crust punk kids, and they just take over 4th Avenue, and so these kids are walking by, and this guy from the street yells at Graham and goes, "Look at you fat Clark Kent looking motherfucker," which actually is a good burn. He looks like a fat
For
Clark
a
Kent.
crust punk, that's a great burn.
It's a great burn. And he was wearing cargo shorts. He had dreads and a big beard. And he's wearing a vest with no shirt. And
checks out.
And
Has he got a dog?
He
got a dirty dog?
He did have a dog with him.
Of course.
And Graham goes, "Oh, it's saying a lot from Fat Aladdin." Right? Which is also a good burn off the top of his
Solid,
head.
yeah.
And for whatever reason, Fat Aladdin set this kid off. He was like, "Fuck you, motherfucker," and went to try and come in the front door, but there's a bouncer. The bouncer's like, "Get out of here. What's wrong with you?" And there was like
I know this.
this is crazy. This is one of the craziest nights of my life in
great.
comedy. There was a 3-foot like brick fence with one of those wrought iron gates, and the dude tries to climb over it, and Graham is just roasting him. And we're just watching. It's like, what the fuck? And it's one of those wrought iron gates with the little points like that.
Oh,
on
no.
it. And they're not sharp, but they are points.
Yeah.
And this kid is super fucked up. He's like wasted. He slips, and the point goes into his bicep.
Ooh.
And it goes into the skin, under the skin, but it doesn't come through.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's dangling from the post with it's in his arm, like inches, like 3 inches in his arm.
Yeah.
So gross.
And you can see it popping out, and everyone starts screaming. It's like, what the fuck? This kid.
He doesn't feel a thing.
He is screaming though, and so the door guy, who's like an ex-Marine, literally runs over, grabs his legs, picks him up off the hook, right? And there's kind of like hamburger meat all over the hook still left.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
this dude's got like a 3-inch hole in his arm. And the door guy, who was awesome, he was so good. He pulls the guy off, takes off his own belt, puts a tourniquet on the kid's arm.
Yeah.
And we call 911, right?
Wow.
And so the whole time this kid is like not. He was just shocked. He's not. He's like, no, I'm fine. The ambulance comes, and it's hard to have a comedy show while that's happening.
Right.
Yeah. That makes it difficult.
So the fucking ambulance comes, and this dude like literally has a visible hole in his arm.
But at least they don't need to. Oh, right. You said he was screaming in pain.
At first, yeah, but at this point, by the time the ambulance got there, he's like, "Nah, I'm good." He was so fucked up on drugs. He's like, "Nah, I'm good." And the ambulance is like, "Are you sure you don't want to take us to the hospital?" And the dude's like, "Nah, I'm good," and just walked off.
Wow.
That's so. I bet he died.
I bet he at least lost an arm.
I bet that's like how you died. That's how you died during the Civil War.
Right?
It's like you got a 3-inch musket
'Tis
hole.
but a flesh wound.
Yeah, you got a 3-inch musket hole in your arm. And
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
So like
That's
I said,
so
I'm used to
disgusting.
these outdoor shows with aggressive crowds.
We should do some premium content with guests. Because I ran into Ian.
That's a pretty good
I
idea.
ran into Ian this weekend, Ian Finance, and he said he wants to come on.
I know. Well, it's funny because when he
I did
texted
2
me,
shows with him this weekend.
because he
but-
texted me and was like, I love to do the podcast. And I was like, well, we're not having guests on, but I'll let you know when we do. And then he texted me yesterday. He's like, Derek said I can do the podcast. So fuck you.
That's like that's like when you ask your mom for something, she says no, and then you go ask your dad.
Yeah, I was like, I'm the one
"Whatever."
that told Derek and Jericho yes to do the podcast.
You know what's funny about that is because I was at a show at this thing outside Brooklyn the other night, and Ian came into the show, and you have to walk down into the backyard basement through this thing or whatever. And Ian came in, he was standing above, like on this platform, before the stairs go down. He points at him and he goes, "What's up?" And then this guy turns around and he looks at me and he goes, "Holy shit. Is that Ian Finance?"
Oh god.
I go, "Yeah, it's Ian. Why?" He goes, "Fuck." fuck, you think he'll do a set? And I was like, I don't know. The show's going pretty good so far. I don't know if we want Ian doing a set. And then because it caught me off guard, and I'm joking about that because Ian's funny or whatever. But I'm joking about that because it caught me
whatever.
it caught me off guard to think that anybody thinks any of our friends or us or whatever have any level of stature when they're just guys we know.
It is weird. Like
Ian's
got a fan base.
Yeah, he's got a fan base of people.
I got laid because I'm friends with Corinne.
Yeah, you're not the first. I'm sure.
I'm sure of it because I was at the work and like,
was it by Corinne?
No, I was at a bar and this girl she's talking about comedy and she's like, "Oh, you're a comedian?" I was like, "Yeah." And first thing she asked, she's like, "Do you know Corinne Fisher?" And I was like, "Yeah. She's a buddy of mine actually." And really? And then that just opened the whole conversation. And then my charm and my wit,
right? That took over.
Took
over.
You
got laid because of who you are, Jared.
Right? Yeah.
Goddamn right I did. I deserve to be loved.
Let's maybe button it with that. Is that our in the tradition of maybe making the title something that someone has to listen all the way through to hear? Maybe you got laid because of who you are.
Yes.
Is that nice and sweet?
That might be a little long.
We all deserve love. We'll think of a title on our own time. You know what I mean?
I thought "Go Fuck Me" was pretty good, but whatever.
Go fuck me?
No, because that's just too.
Did
obvious.
I miss that? Did that come out during our discussion?
Yeah, whatever.
I think I missed
something out.
your joke.
He's funny or whatever.
All right.
Ian's funny or whatever.
On there, we're
He's not
Bushwick
even on the
Bears.
episode.
He
all
will
right,
be.
guys. There's lots of really cool stuff coming from the Bushwick Bears.
You heard some of the ideas, and suggest us more if there's something you would want to contribute to a Patreon and get in return.
Yeah, but
let us know.
In the meantime, since we're not on Patreon, I'm at Hump Derek on Venmo.
It's Bushwick-Bears 69.
Yeah, we got our own Venmo, greedy fuck.
But we'll be back. We got a bunch of sketches in the works. As long as the world doesn't burn down tonight, I think we'll be back.
Tonight or in the next 79 days?
In the next 79 days.
Yeah.
It's not going to. Trump's going to win, and everything's going to be fine.
That was Derek Humphrey, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm kidding. These are all jokes. I didn't vote for Trump. I can say that with all honesty.
I know. That's really the thing, is being able to look people in the eyes and say that so that they don't hurt you.
Is to say I didn't vote for Trump. I mean, I might not have voted for who they wanted me to vote for, but I didn't vote for Trump.
You might be the living embodiment of everything that they hate, but you didn't vote for Trump.
I'm objective, and my wife likes to complain that act like I'm above the fray instead of actually forming an opinion.
All right, save this one for couples therapy.
Couples therapy. All right, guys, thanks for listening.
Name of the episode.
Subscribe, rate, review, all that stuff. Tell your friends. Tell your mom.